Days of Our Lives spoilers indicate that the show's gearing up for a big reveal that's going to affect Rachel Black deeply. Rachel's already been having a hard time, so this may be one traumatic secret too many. Days viewers know Rachel's been through a lot in recent months. There was the Ava Vitale kidnapping ordeal, Rachel Blake's disappearance, E.J. DiMera's shooting, and John Black's demise. Of course, Rachel's also been dealing with her belief that Johnny DiMera pulled the trigger on E.J. Although Rachel is mistaken about that, she still had to watch Johnny confront E.J. with a gun. Rachel is in a fragile place mentally and emotionally, so anything else could push her right over the edge. Unfortunately, Days spoilers say Rachel indeed has another traumatic shocker ahead of her. The show's been setting it up through Rachel and Sarah Horton Kiriakis' bonding sessions. Days' June 26th episode also brought some hints about what's ahead for Rachel and how Sarah ties into it. During a conversation at the pub, Sarah reflected on raising Rachel for the first year of her life and admitted she still thinks of her as a daughter. This goes back to the storyline where Xander Kiriakis switched Sarah's deceased baby girl for Brady Black and Kristen DiMera's living one. Sarah raised Rachel as Mackenzie Mickey Horton until the truth came out and she was forced to surrender the little girl she loved so much. Rachel was reunited with her true parents, but Sarah has always felt a strong connection to her due to that first year they spent together. Brady confirmed he's never told Rachel about any of this, but you can bet she's going to find out anyway. Since Xander and Sarah may be going to court over their custody fight, the baby swap saga could be revisited. The fact that Xander stole Rachel may come up along with the fact that Sarah briefly went on the run with her after she learned about the switch. At some point during this custody feud, Rachel will inevitably get updates on all the info she's missing. Some wild stories are headed Rachel's way, and she may not react well at all, considering how much trauma she's already endured. Rachel may freak out and get upset over being left in the dark all this time. Duel fans should see Rachel spin out like never before, so don't miss her reaction to all the stunning news to come. Days of Our Lives spoilers say Rachel has plenty more horror in her future. We have the latest Days of Our Lives spoilers from Monday, June 30th to Friday, July 4th. Brady and Kristen have it out over Rachel. Leo receives a big surprise from Mojave, and Belle makes Paulina a promise. Plus, Alex runs an idea by Stephanie. Read on for more drama ahead in Salem. Days of Our Lives. Spoilers for Monday, June 30th. EJ insists Johnny is innocent. Rafe gets angry with Jada. Chanel rips into Paulina. Marlena and Roman share their concerns. Gabby and Ari enjoy a sweet mother-to-daughter moment. Days of Our Lives spoilers for Tuesday, July 1st. Sophia updates Tate. Ari questions Doug III. Brady and Kristen argue about Rachel. Chanel and EJ clash. Days of Our Lives spoilers for Wednesday, July 2nd. Sophia freaks out. Steve gives Julie news. Maggie gets Sarah to open up. Javi brings Leo a big surprise. Days of Our Lives spoilers for Thursday, July 3rd. Sophia asks Melinda for help. Tate reconciles with Holly. Maggie has a testy exchange with Xander. Brady encourages Sarah. Days of Our Lives. Spoilers for Friday, July 4th. EJ supports Johnny. Abe checks on Chanel. Belle makes a promise to Paulina. Brady and Kristen consult with Marlena. Alex pitches an idea to Stephanie. Days of Our Lives spoilers are in for Friday, June 27th, 2025. Fans can expect Philip Kiriakis to make an agreement. Chad DiMera and Kat Green have a nice evening together. Plus, Johnny DiMera worries E.J. DiMera. Keep reading, and let's talk about what is coming up in the Peacock soap opera. Let's begin with Philip, who is still recovering in the hospital from injuries resulting from a bad beating. Fans know that Xander Cook Kiriakis was out of his mind with fury and kicked Philip while he was already down. Xander regrets it, but isn't taking responsibility either. Instead, Philip makes a deal with Xander. Not only do they have to work together and make it look smooth, but they could both end up in prison if the truth comes out. However, nobody really believes Philip's cover story about the attack. There are also Philip's flashbacks. Over with Kate Roberts Brady, she is furious that Xander is out walking free. Kate made a vow to Roman Brady to make Xander pay for hurting her son. In the past, Kate would have gotten her gun and shot the man. Since there is already an attempted murder investigation going on, Kate knows better. Kate makes an agreement with Alex. Since Brady Black agreed to change his vote for the hospital to Xander, maybe Kate makes sure the villain won't win. Of course, this could also have to do with Stephanie Johnson's manuscript, Days of Our Lives. Spoilers for tomorrow's episode reveals that Jada Hunter gives Stephanie some advice. This might have to do with Alex's bombshell that Kate thinks the manuscript could be a runaway bestseller. Jada might suggest that if Stephanie publishes, maybe she could use an alias. Fans can also expect Johnny to worry EJ. Fans know that Johnny just admitted to Roman and Marlena Evans that he threatened his father with a gun, but didn't pull the trigger. So that is leading Roman and Marlena to investigate and figure out how to best protect Johnny. However, if Johnny tells EJ that one bullet is missing from Roman's gun, that means the attempted killer is still out there. Meanwhile, Cat and Chad spend a pleasant evening together. Will things get romantic? Could there be a complication due to Cat's agreement with Shane Donovan? Which storyline are you looking forward to seeing the most? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember to keep watching the soap on Peacock to find out what is coming up next. Days of Our Lives spoilers for Friday, June 27th suggest some major moments as Salem heads into the weekend. Someone honors a friend's request, while two brothers make a deal and a father is concerned. What's set to unravel on Friday's show? Time to find out. Days of Our Lives spoilers for Friday, June 27th imply that Kate Roberts Brady will approach Alex Kyriakis with a request, one that he agrees to honor. Could this be about Stephanie Johnson's manuscript, or something else? Then again, could Kate pull Alex into the drama between Xander Kyriakis and Philip Kyriakis? Will she enlist Alex to help her ensure Xander pays for what he did to Philip? Xander seems to trust Alex, so it'll be interesting to see how he'll stay true to that partnership, but honor Kate's if that's the case. Speaking of Xander and Philip, Salem proves once again that miracles can happen in the little town, as the two brothers will come to an agreement. But is this deal about Titan DiMera, or is it about keeping Xander out of jail while Philip keeps half of his inheritance? Across, Jada Hunter will have some solid advice for her bestie. However, will Stephanie follow her friend's words of wisdom? Lastly, Days of Our Lives spoilers for Friday hint that EJ DiMera will be very concerned about Johnny DiMera, and considering he's getting arrested for his father's shooting, EJ has every right to be worried. While Johnny confessed to thinking about shooting his dad but not doing it. During the Wednesday, June 25th show, there will likely be some miscommunication about all this at some point. Well, enough to get Jada to arrest Johnny in the middle of the town square. Is there anything EJ can do to stop this? Considering EJ was the one who was shot, could he refuse to press charges? It doesn't sound like the situation will be that simple for Johnny to get out of. Are you excited about Friday's show? Comment below. Check out the popular Peacock soap daily for your dose of Salem drama, and visit SOS often for the most up-to-date Days of Our Lives. News and spoilers. Check out the popular Peacock soap daily for your dose of Salem drama, and visit SOS often for the most up-to-date Days of Our Lives news and spoilers. Days of Our Lives spoilers for the week of June 30th, July 4th, 2025. Tease a supportive dad and a supportive boyfriend. Despite Marlena's and Roman's concerns about Johnny being the shooter, the week will start with EJ insisting his son is innocent. He's vowed to protect Johnny, despite the video evidence he possesses of Johnny confronting him with a gun. By the end of the week, EJ will still support Johnny, no matter how done with his dad he is. Summer means Salem's teen scene is in full swing, and on Tuesday, Ari will question Doug Third. She's been into him from the second she hooked up with him on her birthday, but what will she have to question him about? Could she discover the threatening photos he was sent? Or will she find out about his feelings for Holly? Considering Holly is said to reconcile with Tate on Thursday, Doug III may be bitter, knowing his love is reuniting with her ex. On a less dramatic front, two of Salem's cutest couples are having major moments next week. Midweek, Javi will bring Leo a big surprise. These two have taken over as Salem's lighthearted couple, so who knows what fun this surprise will bring. At the end of the week, Alex pitches an idea to Stephanie, and it must be about her manuscript. Despite the fact one stormy night has been floating around the hospital since Kate lost it, Alex is still determined to publish his girlfriend's novel. Got a sizzling fan theory? Email news@soaphub.com. Yours could be our next hot topic. There's never a dull moment in Days of Our Lives, Salem. From Xander pulverizing Philip to the mystery of EJ's shooting, the police department has a lot on its plate. And with the bittersweet return of Beau after John sacrificed his life for a miracle cure for sepsis, the mood in town darkened. However, that darkness was tempered by the joyful wedding of Andrew and Paul. With all that drama going on, the actors took a chance to get silly and let off some steam with some much-needed fun. "We're passing the hourglass, get to know some Salemites," was written on the official Days Instagram page. Attached was a video that began with Robert Scott Wilson holding a plastic hourglass and stating, "I'm handing off the hourglass to the best commissioner in Salem." He tossed it off screen to Ilya Cantu, who caught it and said, "Oh, good arm, Rob." She introduced herself and continued, "I'm going to be passing this hourglass to somebody who came on the show pretending to be Abigail, but now she has found her true identity, and she is Marlena's awesome assistant." Of course, Anna Lynn McCord caught it, introduced herself, and said, "I'm tossing this lovely little hourglass to my boss." Deidre Hall caught it next, explained who she plays, and said she was passing the hourglass to one of my very favorite people in the world, and also one of my favorite patients. She then told Greg Rickart that he was next. He caught it and said he would be passing it to Mary Beth Evans, and teased Kayla and Leo might soon cross paths. Evans caught it and said she would hand it to her one and only little husband, Steve. Stephen Nichols took it and introduced himself as the one and only Patch Man. The fans all shared their love for the show and its cast, with one commenting, "Love seeing you all and that hourglass daily." Cat's lies continued during the Friday, June 27th episode of Days of Our Lives. The FBI analyst fed Chad a tall tale so she could go meet her new partner. Elsewhere in Salem, Johnny and EJ had a cathartic and forgiving conversation before Jada swooped in and arrested him. Board vote number 2 for the purchase of the hospital had a very familiar result. Xander and Philip brokered a very tentative truce, while Alex and Stephanie brokered a deal of their own. Johnny and EJ had a great moment in the middle of Horton Town Square. It is funny what happens when people communicate and remove any anger and resentment from the conversation. They realized that EJ assumed Johnny shot him, even though he only remembered his son training a gun on him. That EJ had been attempting to shield Johnny from attempted murder charges all along. After Rafe learned about Johnny's whereabouts the night of the murder, he confronted him. Then Rafe took it upon himself to talk to Jada about Gabby's tip and Johnny's argument. He came forward because he wanted Jada to give Gabby and Johnny the benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, this meant bringing Johnny in, so Jada made the arrest. Rafe was super busy in Friday's episode. Not only did he make it possible for Johnny to finally go on record about what happened that night between him and his dad, but he had FBI business to attend to as well. A new partnership took hold in the park, where Cat and Rafe secretly rendezvoused. The FBI agent and the analyst will now team up to bring EJ down for some sort of financial crime. Nobody knows how EJ came up with the money to purchase the hospital, so that will be Cat and Rafe's mission. BC. Meaning Rafe's rivalry with EJ is alive and well. He deserves to get payback after what EJ did to him. Philip was on to Xander. Not only did he know that Xander was the one to give him the vicious beatdown, he knew that Xander was the one to get rid of the guard at Philip's hospital door using underhanded tactics, and he also knew that Xander tried to smother him with the pillow. So, once again, the power shifted a little bit. Yes, Philip could go to jail for fraud if everything gets revealed, but now attempted murder is on the table. Xander tried to get away with telling Philip they can stay away from each other once Philip is released. But Philip won't let that happen. They're going to have to work together if they want to right the Titan Demera ship. Unfortunately, they will have their work cut out for them now that the second board vote ended up going against them. EJ won the right to purchase the hospital again. That result works out for him as well as for the FBI. But it won't work for Xander. Apparently, Xander leveraged a lot to make the purchase happen, add that to the fact that he was a shoo-in to win the first vote, but he ruined it by attacking Philip. Meanwhile, Alex is doing his best to do right by Titan DiMera by bringing back the Titan publishing arm of the company. He convinced Stephanie to let him and Kate publish her romance novel. Of course, the PR executive agreed to do it as long as she remained anonymous. How long will that stay a secret? And honestly, what would really happen if the world became privy to the woman behind the pen name? Paul and Andrew tied the knot on Days of Our Lives. Yay, Paul wore John's watch. Andrew had his father, Shane, there. It was a classic soap opera wedding with two members of Salem's core families. And now they're leaving? Why is Days teasing us like this? Andrew and Paul are just like any other couple on Days. Their lives are filled with family drama. If you think too hard, they're technically related. But so is everyone else in Salem, so it's no big deal, action and adventure. Are you even a Days couple if you haven't chased criminals together? And finally, the big, splashy wedding. We all know what happens when a star-crossed couple finally exchanges vows. There's a brief honeymoon period, and then they go on the back burner. The only way to get off it is to develop marital problems. Maybe somebody cheats. Maybe they both cheat. But unless they're fighting criminals, they are fighting each other. Maybe Days doesn't want that for Andrew and Paul. Maybe it wants them to be a model minority couple, like Will and Sunny, and Lonnie and Eli, both of whom are currently out of town too. We understand the show wanting to present happy, loving couples. Representation matters, especially positive images. But the problem with being perfect on a soap is that you don't get a story. To live happily ever after, you almost always end up having to leave town. And we like Andrew and Paul too much to want them to suffer such a fate. Give them conflict, give them drama, but leave them in Salem. Days of Our Lives sees it has been a really twisted week with little Rachel Black seeming so tormented. But is she really tormented? Or is Rachel the one who's doing the tormenting? Because it looks like she's playing twisted games to get payback on her uncle E.J. DiMera. And while Rachel seems so tragically haunted, looks may be deceiving. We had a leak so juicy that the Days press office actually hammered me about it. And now it's all unfolding just like my leaker said. So EJ better watch his back because it is getting real. So, it was back in early February that I first revealed I got a leak that Rachel was the one who shot EJ, and the Days press office, who actually only work Monday through Friday, emailed me upset on a weekend, which was kind of interesting. They weren't happy and, by the way, banned me from future Days events. So basically, I got blackballed for doing what journalists do, reporting on scoops and inside info and leaks. That's what journalists do. But at any rate, I'm not going to stop doing it because I'm a journalist. So, if they hadn't said anything to me when I published that Rachel leak, I might have thought, see how it goes. But after the reaction from the press office, of course I thought, well, I think this leak's pretty legit about Rachel shooting EJ. And now, months later, things keep unfolding, and events are starting to move faster. And I'm more certain that my leaker was right on the mark about rotten little Rachel and her revenge plan. So we all saw Kristen DiMera's daughter acting strangely at her birthday party, and we've seen Rachel kind of struggling with anxiety. She's been getting sick to her stomach. But at the same time, we all know that the little Rachel is psychotically devious. I mean, she is Kristen's daughter for real. Do you remember those threatening texts that she was sending Ava Vitale to get her out of Brady Black's life? Unhinged stuff. And if you remember, EJ snatched Rachel, sent her away to keep her from testifying against him about Rafe Hernandez's kidnapping. So EJ exiling Granny, Rachel Blake, likely infuriated little Rachel, and then EJ got shot. And that wasn't long after Kristen begged him to give back her mom, Rachel. Of course, EJ refused because they were betraying him and planning to send him to prison. And DiMeras do each other dirty, but they're supposed to be loyal to each other. And then, fast forward a couple of episodes ago, Marlena Evans saw Rachel saying, "Don't shoot him," during a nightmare when she was napping on the sofa, and the little girl confessed to Marlena she saw Johnny DiMera pull a gun on EJ. And yeah, I'm sure Rachel did see that because it did happen. But the question is, was Rachel having a nightmare, Or was she faking sleep so that she could say what she said, knowing that Marlena would ask about it? And of course, she did ask, and Rachel confessed her dream to Marlena. And then Doc trotted over to see her ex-husband, Roman Brady, about their grandson. Of course, they're worried. Johnny shot EJ and left him for dead. But when Marlena and Roman confronted him, for me, Johnny's confession seemed sincere, and his grandparents also seemed to believe him. So Johnny told Roman that, he took the gun from the lockbox behind the bar and went to confront EJ. And then Roman said he found the weapon stuck in a planter outside, and that's where things were getting hanky because Johnny didn't stick it there. He left the gun in the living room where he had confronted EJ finger on the trigger, but then couldn't shoot him. Laid down the gun left. Sticking it in a planter, though, is something like a little kid might do. Think about that. So, Johnny told Roman and Marlena he didn't fire the gun, and they believe him, and they're wondering who did fire the gun because Roman said one bullet is missing. Later this week, Johnny and his dad are both shocked when Jada Hunter arrests Johnny for shooting EJ. So the police commissioner herself slaps cuffs on him. And by the way, EJ does not remember Johnny pulling the trigger, just that he held the gun on him. So, his memories are not all back from that night. And at this point, I also suspect EJ has not watched all of the video on that memory card that he just showed Tony DiMera. Maybe EJ couldn't bear to see Johnny hating him so much that he pulled the trigger. So, I'm left wondering, how does Jada get the info to arrest Johnny? Maybe somebody was eavesdropping, or Rachel could tell Kristen or Brady about it. And I don't know if that would do it because Kristen and Brady both know. So at this point, I also don't think Rachel's actively trying to punish Johnny. If anything, she's trying to punish EJ. And if our leaker is correct, and I feel strongly they are again because of the press office incident, then Rachel did shoot EJ out of anger. I believe that part was a crime of passion, some sort of momentary insanity, just this flash of anger. But what's happening now with Johnny's arrest? That's something else entirely. So this could go one of two ways. So, because EJ survived, maybe Rachel decided she needs to punish EJ another way since he took someone that Rachel loves, her crazy grandma Rachel. Maybe Rachel is going to take someone that EJ loves, his son Johnny. Since EJ sent Rachel Blake away, little Rachel may think sending Johnny away to prison is a tit-for-tat fair exchange. However, it may not be that simple. So maybe the shooting was a momentary mental break, and then things have gotten worse in her head. What's happening now could be PTSD and fragmented memories in young Rachel's mind. So of course we've got questions. First, is Kristen's daughter evil enough to carry out this plot? Or has she just blanked out on what she did that night? And the trauma of shooting EJ has just broken her little brain. Maybe Rachel shot her uncle EJ, and the stress just fritzed it all out. It was overload. She doesn't remember it, And so Rachel may only remember seeing Johnny with the gun that night, and not what she herself did. I mean, it's scary to think Rachel intentionally shot EJ in trying to kill him, and then deliberately framed Johnny. It's funny. My husband doesn't get scared when we watch horror movies. Unless it's an evil kid like that movie, Bad Seed, or the little undead toddler in Pet Sematary. Those always terrify him. So, is Rachel just as wicked and devious as her mom, Kristen? Or she just kind of messed up and is a little kid suffering a mental health crisis? Maybe she legit thinks Johnny shot his father. So, another question is this. How is EJ going to get the answers he needs? He does actually think Johnny shot him, but I suspect either Johnny or Marlena assure him that no, that's not what happened. EJ may go back and look at the whole contents of the memory card. EJ could go to Marlena to hypnotize him, to help recover his memories. The memory card is a better option because that's actual evidence that could be submitted in court. So, also we have this behind-the-scenes photo that kind of accidentally leaked Kristen's fate. If you look at that, and this is from, I think, 7 months ago, it was back when Thayo Peningales came back to film more scenes. And of course, he's back on the air now. So, if you look at all their outfits, that is clearly Kristen in Salem, Statesville, prison blues, no makeup on, looking very plain like she does when she's incarcerated. So, I suspect EJ finds out Rachel shot him. And he, of course, is not going to let Johnny go to prison. He may try and talk Bell Black out of prosecuting, and that doesn't work. And then he watches all the video after Johnny insists he didn't shoot him. Then EJ goes to Kristen and is like, "Look, I've got video of your daughter shooting me. You know, that little psycho is going to juvie and I'm saving my son." And I can see Kristen saying, "Don't do it. I'll confess to the crimes. Send me to prison instead. I'll make sure Rachel gets intensive psychotherapy. Brady will arrange it, but don't put my daughter behind bars, you know." And Kristen still has some leverage against EJ in the kidnapping and other bad deeds he's done. So I think he might be inclined to take that deal because the idea of putting his little niece in prison might be hard for him to swallow. And Kristen, yeah, I think she would definitely sacrifice herself for Rachel. We'll see how it goes. But my biggest question overall is whether Kristen's daughter cooked up a scheme and is gaslighting all the adults around her, which is twisted and terrifying and also very interesting. Or is Rachel simply a little girl haunted by guilt and trauma over a bad thing she did in the spur of the moment? Welcome to the Days of Our Lives Daily YAPP for a quick, and by that I mean you're already halfway done, recap of the most amazing or what the heck did we just watch moments on today's episode. Let's get to it. So, Days of Our Lives. Johnny was arrested for the attempted murder of his father, but with what evidence? All Rafe had to do was hear that Johnny did indeed argue with EJ the night he was shot, so he ran off to tell Jada before hearing the entire story. Sure, he told Jada that his gut was saying Johnny wasn't the culprit because he knew Johnny. But why did he jump the gun and run to Jada? It's not like he is a member of the Salem PD anymore and had any obligation to do so. In fact, now we are not sure if he is an FBI agent or an ICE agent. He said he was FBI, but he just introduced himself to Kat as her new ICE partner. But that's a whole other puzzling mess for another day. Right now, we want to know why Rafe ratted Johnny out like that, and what real evidence Jada had to obtain an arrest warrant. Gabby, hearing an argument from outside, isn't very solid proof that Johnny fired a bullet into his own father's chest. While the arrest definitely made for some solid drama, considering that Johnny and EJ had just shared an emotional reconciliation, Jada cuffing Johnny made no sense. And Rafe? Just what were you thinking, and how are you going to explain yourself to Sammy? Want more details? We got you! Soap Central has the best full duel recaps on the internet. You can even go back over 30 years and read each and every one of them. If you can't wait until the next episode, we have daily spoilers too.